for us teachers, the bell always represents a beginning, right? Like the beginning of the day, the beginning of our periods, the beginning of when we can start drinking on Fridays or Thursdays if it's been a particularly rough week, no judgment. For my fiance and I, we thought it was going to be the ringing of our wedding bells that signified the beginning of our new life together. Unfortunately, about 2 months before our big day, it was a different kind of ringing that would change everything. The phone rang. It was my fiance's gynecologist. She was calling to say that the lump she found on my wife's breast during the exam that day was probably nothing, but she'd feel better if we went and got it checked out. So we did. That Friday, my fiance and I went to the doctor. She underwent a bunch of tests, and the very chatty technician told us that although we wouldn't get any results till Monday at the earliest, that lump looked, and I quote, crunchy, so it was probably cancer. Direct quote. Now, that's the worst thing a health professional can say to a young couple that doesn't have anything solid to go on for days. And in a particularly dark bit of irony, we actually had a funeral to attend that weekend for a friend of ours who had passed away from cancer. I don't love saying this out loud, but as I sat in the back of that funeral parlor, I could see clear as day my fiance's face on the body in that casket. And every single person that went up to that family and said, "I'm sorry for your loss," felt like they were talking directly to me. And that sadness and grief snowballed into guilt at even entertaining the thought that we weren't going to make it through whatever this unknown thing was. My fiance and I have been through so much together. We work at the same school. It's actually how we met. In fact, the first time we met, she was actually bailing me out of a jam. The bell rang. My first year teacher panic set in. I'm sure you all know exactly what I'm talking about, that nagging thought that at any moment your class can devolve into the final scene from Mad Max Fury Road. It's something so trivial as forgetting the Post-it notes. And I had forgotten the Post-it notes. So I frantically peek my head outside for a lifeline, and I see our school's beautiful speech therapist walking down the hall towards me. I thought her name was Hannah with an H. Turns out it's Panna with a P. It's Greek. Which is fine because my name is Ryan with an R, and she thought it was Jason with a J. We did get to know each other. Fortunately, she did have Post-it notes, and that exchange of office supplies started our storybook romance that includes eating pizza, playing with our dog, making excuses to leave parties early so we can play with our dog while eating pizza. We're fun. But there we were. By Monday, we found out Crunchy Tumor Lady was right. It was cancer. That initial crushing blow of the diagnosis actually gave way to a really weird, unsettling calm. All of my questions turned from why is this happening to us to, okay, what do we do about it? And that's an actionable series of questions. Treatment, as it was laid out for us, started with chemotherapy, then went to surgery, then went through radiation. Oh, and our wedding stuffed in the middle of all that for good measure. Treatment is every terrible thing that you have heard or read about. In the short time I have left, I can't possibly explain to you what it was like and the terror and anguish of seeing the woman I love in and out of the hospital, doctor's appointments every day, losing her hair, and the helplessness that entombed me for the entire experience. As I mentioned, though, the last step of that process is radiation. So much so at MSK that they actually have a brass bell hanging up on the door at the radiation clinic for you to hit on the way out on your last day as a small sign of victory finishing your treatment. The last day of treatment, I sat in that waiting room, surrounded by friends and family. And as my wife came around the corner on her way out, every single emotion hit me at once. The fear of the diagnosis, the anguish and pain of the treatment, and the joy of having just found out days earlier that my wife was 100% cancer-free. My wife walked over, grabbed that rope, and with tears in her eyes and what felt like a basketball in my throat, she pulled and the bell rang. Thank you.